Okay, so we are going to talk about relational database services. So that is in short, we are going to call it as Amazon RDS. Okay, so Amazon RDS is what we are going to learn today. So what is AWS RDS? We are going to talk about a lot of things in this. What are the RDS components, RDS interfaces, RDS concepts? We have some charges like how it is Amazon charging. What is called as a multi-ESA and what are the benefits? What failover options? What is a read replica? How to do a backup restore and how do we copy a snapshot? Okay, so working with this instance, so this is what we are going to cover, throughout this particular lesson. So when we talk about RDS, it is Relational Database Services. So what is there in RDS? So RDS is a web service that makes it easier to set up, operate, and scale a relational database in the cloud. So Amazon RDS is a web service. Of course, it is a web service. You log into aws.amazon.com. Then you do a couple of clicks and you get your database up and running, created. So that database is nothing but that database is a relational database. So that database can be a relational database management system. So we are going to launch one of those RDBMSs. So AWS RDS provides high availability with a primary instance and a synchronous secondary instance that can fail over to when problems occur. We have discussed in the past about Oracle Real Application Clusters also. We have also discussed about similar things like you talk about SQL Server or MySQL or Oracle. We always talk about high availability, or we talk about cloning. We talk about primary and standby, synchronous and asynchronous. So that is all possible. So similar way here also we have high availability with one instance called as a primary and a synchronous secondary instance. Why it calls as a synchronous secondary instance? Because it is going to be continuously updated or staying similar as the primary database. So those can fail over to when problem happens. So what does it mean by high availability? You have two instances running, one instance has gone down, still you have second instance to survive your business workload. So that's how it works. Okay, now AWS RDS database products, we have about six database engines that is supported by AWS RDS. Okay, so there are six database engines. So understand these are the fixed database engines that AWS RDS supports. That is, the very first one is MySQL, and second is MariaDB. Then we have PostGRE, we have Oracle, we have Microsoft SQL, and we have Amazon Aurora DB. Okay, we have another one called as a Amazon Aurora DB. So don't get confused. The major confusion in this RDS or understanding or adopting a new technology like AWS cloud is the challenging is the terminology. What is the terminology? If somebody will ask what is Amazon Aurora, you would say it is a relational database. Is it similar to like Oracle? You would say yes. What is Oracle? It is RDBMS. What is Amazon Aurora DB? It is RDBMS. What is RDS? It is also RDBMS. What is the difference between RDS and Aurora? So you should not lead to a confusion. See, Amazon RDS is not a database. It is not a RDBMS. Amazon RDS is a web service. Okay, this Amazon RDS allows you to create your relational database and using six different engines. Okay, so Amazon RDS is not a database. So Amazon RDS architect who works as a RDS architect is not Oracle DB, he is not a MySQL DB. His past experience may belong to he may be working as Oracle DB, he may belong to PostgreSQL DB, he may be was a MySQL DB, he may be was a Oracle DB. Okay, but when he becomes RDS architect, so apart from the past experience that he had, for example, there is a guy called as a Sam or Samia, he has experience in Oracle and MySQL, he learns AWS Solutions Architect, and then he is being, I found him, he's working as a RDS architect at Amazon. So what does it mean? So this guy is no more just working only in Oracle and MySQL. Rather, he is working onto all the six databases. Okay. So these six databases are the six RDBMSs. These are the only six engines that is supported by AWS RDBS. So AWS RDS is a web service that helps you create other third party databases. Similarly, we have five outside databases, third party: MySQL, MariaDB, PostgreDB. Then we have Oracle and we have SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server. And one of it is own is called as a Amazon Aurora DB. So what does it mean? Amazon Aurora DB is a similar kind of SQL Server or Oracle database. That means, yeah, it is an RDBMS. We can migrate our Oracle if you want to two situations. For example, in your on-premises, you have one Oracle running, and for example, this is your on-premises database. If you want to migrate it to AWS, then you got two options. What you can do, you can go with RDS Oracle. This is the one. Okay, so you can create a RDS instance which will have Oracle pre-installed to it, or else you will also have a second option called as a RDS having Amazon Aurora DB. So that would also need a migration of your data from source to target. So whatever it reason, what I'm trying to say, RDS is a web server. It supports six more database engines like Microsoft SQL Server, MariaDB, MySQL, and PostgreSQL, and of course the Aurora DB. Okay, moving on to next slide. Okay. So what are AWS RDS components? What components it does have? We are not going to discuss a very complex architecture as versus to what we have discussed in Oracle. It doesn't mean that it is not complex, but here the task is to make the thing simplified and presented. So we have something called as a DB instances. So instance is nothing but usually some amount of memory that is allocated towards your each RDS instance. So it can be MySQL Server, it can be Oracle, it can be Aurora DB, it can be anything. Yeah, but they will usually have a DB instance. So instance is nothing but some amount of memory and some processes. Second thing, they have something called as a security groups. So most importantly, we would have to handle the priority, especially when we get a traffic from the internet or outside world. It is good we do that. And availability zone. Okay, this is very important. We are going to, like, after a couple of subsequent slides, we are going to talk about different availability zones, and we are going to talk about how does the read replica works and how does the high availability works in Amazon RDS. So for that reason, we are going to understand or work on this availability zone. So apart of this, we have some DB options group and parameter group. So parameter group would certainly, impact the most of the DB, the way it behaves and all that. And DB operations group, you can use it to group uh, the work inside the database or kind of things. So anyways, these are the five components that we have as part of Amazon RDS: DB instances, security groups, availability zones, and DB option groups and DB parameter group. Okay, so what we get, how do we log in? How do we log in Oracle? We have a SQL Plus. How do we log in MySQL? We use MySQL. How do we log into PostgreSQL? We have a PGSQL utility. We have a PHP MyAdmin utility. Using that, we can connect to this both. We have a SQL developer using which we can connect to all of them. So we have a Toad, we have a SQL Plus, we have a Arman. So we got a lot of interfaces when we talk about Oracle and others. So similar way, if you want to work with an RDS instance, definitely you would need a command line interface. So that's your standard command line interface. Then you need an RDS console. Of course, you would need to have that access. And yep, that's it. Okay, so we got the console, we got the command line interfaces, and we got some programmatic interfaces. So programmatic interfaces, they usually, do the connectivity from your end to the machine in a CLI mode or anything like that. Okay. So database instance identifier, master user account, and DB instance class. So these are the major three concepts of RDS. These three things we would discuss when we would jump into practical. We would understand the concept in more detail over there. Let us go through like a couple of quick things. Like this is the pricing of MS SQL and MySQL. So instance class pricing is based on the class. Storage, the storage capacity that you have promised to your DB instance, and the amount of IO request bandwidth, and what is the backup size? Where do you try to take the backup? Okay, so those all stuffs. So here you can see this is about $1 an hour. So about SQL Server $24 per day and coming about $720 per month. So for big organization, it looks to be well, they have to compare with their existing TCO, total cost of ownership, and see this would definitely be coming 5 to 10 times lesser than that. So well, it again depends and varies from the type of instance that you have and region and the storage as well. Anyways, moving to next. Okay, so this is what I was about to discuss, like one of the important concept. Then we would jump into anything else. Let me. Okay, I know like Vinay has worked on MySQL, and the son Joshi ji has now Nagendra. All people has worked on Oracle. Uh, Anybody has worked on SQL Server or PostgreSQL SQL, any other one? Harish Swami.
No, sir. We are working on Oracle only.
Okay, okay. So fine. So make sure like along with this lecture, we would make our hands dirty with couple of MySQL and PostgreSQL, and most importantly Amazon Aurora DB. Okay. So let me just. So Amazon RDS, AWS RDS, multi-AZ, and read replicas. So let us first understand what is multi-AZ. So multi-AZ, as the name sounds, is a availability zone. Multi, it is talking about two different availability zones. Okay, so they are done to provide you a high availability options. So when you provision a multi-AJDB instance, Amazon RDS automatically creates a primary instance and a synchronous replicate the data to a standby instance in a different availability zone. So what does it mean? The moment you will click an option saying make it multi-AZ, so you don't give multi-AZ, so only one RDS database will be created that you can connect to do everything. If the machine is down or building is down or your database is down or threat, then nobody can claim the responsibility. Okay, so when we talk about multi-AZ, so we are talking about definitely two different availability zones here. Here you can see we got availability zone A, and here we are talking about availability zone B. So in SQL Server or in Oracle Rack 1 database, you have a concept kind of this. Like your database available on availability zone A would be your primary database, and the database on availability zone 2 is going to be a synchronous or a replication database, so often we call as a standby or DR database. databases. Okay, but yeah, here we are not going to use those terms. What we are going to use simple is going to be asynchronous replicated storage happening onto a second subnet. Okay, so what happens in this case uh, is usually your data is this remains your master. For example, this is your website web server application, maybe that is in cloud. So somebody is trying to connect to this database. They are connected to this master. So if the master is down, then the second one is gonna come back to it. So in multi-essay, what happens? A read replica, a synchronous read replica, not read replica, a synchronous replica of your database is maintained, on a different availability zone. So both the availability zones are in both different subnets, and they are all part of the same VCN. Each availability gen runs its own physical distinct independent infrastructure. RDS performs an automatic failover to the standby in case of failure. So as I mentioned, if the connectivity is failed while connecting to the primary instance, then definitely it is going to come back to second instance. Sorry. So Amazon RDS performs an automatic failover to the standby in case of failure. So as I told, like if your availability zone A is down, then automatically your application will go and connect to availability zone B. So in this case, you would have to do no changes to your website. You would have need to do no configurations. You simply configure the initial settings. Yeah. So your application gets automatically failed over. So, what are the benefits of multi-assay? So, it utilizes synchronous physical replication to keep the data on standby up and running with primary, and it stays synced also. So, well, the safety is not like hidden constant, so that is definitely of benefit. Multi-assay provides data redundancy, eliminate IO freezes, and minimizes latency spikes during system backups. So, it helps to get your backups done faster. Using single AZ deployments, IO activity is not suspended. So, in single AZ deployments, your IO activity is suspended usually when you do take a backup of your primary. But for multi-AZ deployments, the backup is taken from the standby environment. So in this case, we mentioned right in AZ1 we have one primary, in AZ2 we have one secondary. So for the second instance, for the second instance, it is used only for during the failover only. But yeah, so and it can be used for the backup also. So that is where it leverages the multi-AZ benefits over a single, AZ deployment. Okay, so yeah, the failover that we have mentioned, that automatic failover would happen. That usually happens under 2 minutes. Okay, that's one thing. DB instance failover is fully automatic. It does not require your intervention. You do not have to look into it or touch by saying if you need to do this, if you need to do that. No, there is certainly not a single change that you have to do. It is completely automatic. So, in the event of a planned or unplanned outage, RDS automatically switches to a standby replica. So, that's how the failover process begins. The 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 failover times usually, like less than 120 seconds, that's 2 minutes. And for large transactions or lengthy recovery process, it increases the failover time. For example, you have an uncommitted data which is about to roll back, and usually it takes more than 3 to 5 minutes. So certainly it might help. Okay, we discussed that the failover is automatic in previous section. So yeah, that's fine. We were talking about if a transaction has done a lot of commit or maybe have done changes. Maybe it has done larger changes. Maybe it has done thousands of transactions. Uncommitted transactions are there. So in that case, it is gonna take up a little longer time than 120 seconds. So that's where it can go ahead and increase the failover time. So in multi-user, we see that the backups, can be taken from your standby instances. Standby instances you cannot use and connect for reporting. It is only meant for your high availability. Your primary goes down, that is in your availability zone one. Your your secondary becomes primary automatically. So for this failover, uh, it doesn't require any of your manual intervention. So the failure process is usually less than 2 minutes or up to 120 seconds. It can also increase if you have some unfailed transactions. So far, it will also automatically update the DNS names in case we perform any changes. Okay, so you can also set up a couple of notifications that you receive via SMS. All that is possible. You can view it using either a console or you can view it using a AWS. Okay. Just okay. Now we just spoke about AWS read multi-user, and the next important concept is uh, AWS read replica. Okay, if you might be wondering about real application cluster, SQL Server cluster, what is their primary database, what is their standby, what is their physical database, what has happened to them, right? We would discuss that later. So for now, we were talking about AWS multi-user and read replica. We know multi-user we have a primary and secondary instance. Secondary instance is also stays synchronous with the primary. When primary goes down, your secondary becomes the primary. So that is the whole role of your having one primary. Now in read replica, what happens? You can create up to 5 read replicas for one database. So what does it mean? You have got one master database. Okay. Uh, Amazon, it uses the MySQL, MariaDB, PostgRE built-in replication functionality to create a special type of DB instance called as a read replica. So it doesn't use any out-of-the-box mechanism. It uses the database supply tools to create this read replicas. Okay, so read replicas are mostly meant for your diverting your warehouse or diverting your warehouse or your the query or reporting workload to your read replicas. So using the read replicas, you can elastically scale out beyond the capacity constraint of a single database instance and read heavy database workload. So you can run heavy, workloads on this read replicas. Read replicas operates as a database instance that allow only read only connections. So in read replica, you cannot make any changes. You cannot do a failover, but yes, you can go ahead and upload your reporting requirement to certainly to AWS. Okay, so read replicas. We would, as I was talking about what would happen to the SQL Server and other concepts, we would discuss about them in more detail. We would, when we jump into Oracle, we would discuss what happens to rack, what happens to standby. When we talk about multi-ASA, what about Oracle standby? Can it be possible? Can you guys think like in Oracle primary, if I would create in multi-ASA, so one availability zone in Bangalore, one is in Chennai. Okay, so what would happen to this concept when it comes to multi-ASA? Is it possible that in multi-ASA we can have a primary running here in two subnets in this region, and the standby runs, on a different subnet or different subnet or a different region altogether? So this is all possible, and if as we advance further, we have to grab, few more details. So in a top on a high level, AWS RDS is a web service. It has got two different type of architectures. One is uh, a multi-ASA, and the second one is a read replica. It is also possible that you can define a maintenance window. Okay, so in Oracle we have an enterprise manager. In SQL Server we have separate windows. So here the MySQL server and the MySQL database, we can certainly define a default maintenance window. Uh, okay, so it always recommends that you assign a 30-minute maintenance window on a randomly selected day of the week. So Monday to Friday, Sunday, any days you can choose, or any time also. So usually it says 30 minutes a window weekly is sufficed. So most maintenance complete during the 30 minutes maintenance window, but it may take a little more than 30 minutes. So that's fine. So we would jump into the screen. We would try to create a AWS RDS instance. Then we would see, what are the differences. Okay. Now, these three things I believe looks quite simple to us, to me at least. AWS backup, restore, and copying a snapshot. So these are the common things that we do in case of each and every individual databases. But yeah, here we will see how RDS works. So RDS, usually it creates automated backups. It saves the automated backups, to the defined retention period. So while creating an RDS instance, you have to define the retention period. Okay. You can also back up your DB instances manually. Of course, we will do that also. That is needed for us. Okay, your backup storage is equivalent to the sum of the database storage for all instances. Well, that's okay. All automated backups are deleted when you delete a DB instance, but manual snapshots are not deleted. So if you've taken a manual backup, that would not get automatically deleted. If you have taken some automatic backups, that is known, so those will also get deleted upon termination of your RDS instance. Okay, as per the best suggest, automated backups occur daily during the preferred backup window. The backup requires it continues after the window and it until it finishes. So usually the maintenance window is what we are talking about. Usually it will try to complete within the maintenance window. Otherwise, it may take some little more time. So also it is possible. So let us quickly jump into this, practical. Then we would talk about restore, then copying snapshots, then the concepts that we left over. Then we would jump into something little advanced concept called as a option groups and added login. Okay, so before we jump to the advanced sections, let us try to create an AWS RDS instance and see. Okay, so couple of parameters as I discussed, options group parameters we would discuss. So what is the plan? What is this we are going to do is, our plan is basically to first learn an AWS RDS instance. I can go ahead and launch one initially for MySQL. So why I would use MySQL? It is a lighter one. Okay, with minimalist installation, I have to do the work. And with AWS RDS for MySQL engine, Just give me a moment. What we would do is we create a AWS MySQL engine, RDS MySQL, and then we would create a static website. If you remember, we created, during the storage classes, with a couple of 4 steps, we did created instance up and running. So the same way, we would also host a website. Okay, we'll also host a website using Apache HTTPD running in, or maybe we can use a WordPress running in one EC2 instance, and another instance that we will call is a RDS instance hosting running using MySQL engine. Okay, so this practice we would repeat it multiple times with PostgreSQL, with Oracle, with SQL Server. So all the databases that we have with Amazon Aurora DB, and that I would assign everyone to each one of the databases that you have to pick and do it. Though I can go ahead and do it and show it, but it would be much better if it would be, from both the sides. So let us first do it. So today we will create the instance with a MySQL instance, and most possibly tomorrow we will create that another EC2 instance and host that HTTPD and connect to this RDS, and let's see how this works. And we would also try to do a multi-ASA and read replica as well. Okay, let me come back to Chrome. aws.amazon.com. Sign into console. Response indicator 557049. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so here are a couple of things. If you come down, here we got the compute instances. We are a little familiar with this now. Here we got the storage instances. We are a little familiar with this as well now. And here we got the database. Now this is what we have been talking since now. That is Amazon RDS instance. So RDS is nothing but RDS is a web service that helps us create a RDS instance running in one database engine out of 6 database engines. Okay, so we have this 6. So the moment you click on RDS, it will ask you what database instance you want to launch and what are the settings. Similar way, there are a couple of more things that we need to understand. Like we have an RDS instance, and then we have a DynamoDB, and then we have something called as a Redshift. Okay, and apart from this, we have something called as Elastic KSA, Document DB, Cassandra services. Well, those we'll talk later, but these three are the most important things. So when we talk about RDS, it is usually a relational database. It's a relational database, so you have the option of MySQL, Maria, you have got a PostgreSQL, you got SQL Server, you got Oracle. So, if you have a simple Oracle RDBMS database, you want to migrate it, then you would create Oracle RDS instance. Then you can create Oracle, you can create Aurora, you can create a PostgreSQL. You have that, and you have to run few more scripts that would help you to, migrate your database to this ones. So, having said that, these 6 database engines are usually nothing but they are the relational database management systems. So, what if we have a NoSQL database in on-premises, like you got uh, Oracle NoSQL, or you got something non-relational databases. You got talk about the MongoDB, you talk about CouchDB. So if you want to migrate such kind of things to Amazon, then Amazon has its own database called as a DynamoDB. So this is usually referred as a NoSQL database. So usually they have documents, they got key pairs, they got values, a kind of thing. So what is this we would say? We'll come back to this NoSQL. Okay, so in SQL we have a record set, we have a relational data. Okay, in RDS, when we talk about relational database management system, we know the data is related, and we know it is in a tabular format, either it is a row level or columnar level, whatever it is. But DynamoDB is a NoSQL databases. So, as part of this lecture, we are also going to be little make our hands dirty with this, NoSQL database also. And finally, we have a bigger buy, a fat buy called as a Redshift. So Redshift is basically your data warehouse alternative. So many customers, they are running in Oracle Exadata, HP Power Machines, Oracle database appliances. So usually, what they do, so before I'll come to that. So in data warehouse, we know what it happens. A large amount of data is being processed, either extracted, transformed, loaded, a lot of reporting workload, everything happens. Okay, and Redshift is certainly, you might have heard about Oracle Exadata. Okay, so it is a kind of alternative to Redshift. So many people has migrated their databases from, data warehouses from Oracle Exadata to Redshift. So a person with having a RDS architect, with having experience on RDS migrations, along with Redshift experience, would be considered, very high in the market. So, having a Redshift architect, you must need to have some data warehouse knowledge, how you manage in Oracle, how you manage largest terabytes of data file or 2 terabytes of data file in AWS. Okay, so let us just go back. I was just trying to go through the terminologies. Let us go ahead and click on RDS. Okay, so Amazon Aurora is a MySQL and PostgreSQL compatible enterprise class database starting $1 a day. Aurora supports up to 64 terabytes of auto scaling storage capacity, 6 replication across 3 availability zones. Okay, and 15 low latency read replicas. Wow, so that's a good number. Okay. Amazon Relational Database Service makes it easy for setup, operate, and scalable. Relational databases in the cloud. Not your DB instances will be launched in Asia Pacific Mumbai region. Uh-huh. Yeah, I was trying to change the region. For some reason, I don't remember. I was trying to change the region. Okay, so here your DB instances would be created in the EU London. Okay, anyways, let us go ahead and do this. So, okay, if you go ahead and clear this, restore Aurora DB from S3, DB instances will be launched in EU London. You can also restore from S3. Okay, so as the very first step, imagine that your company's database was running and your own premises. What you can do is simply take a backup using any tools like MySQL or Oracle, then backup the database, and then you can go. Okay. So what you can do is from your on-premises, you can back up the databases to S3, and then you can go ahead and click on restore from S3. So we are definitely going to try that option also. Let us quickly go through. So this is your Aurora option. Okay, so it says in the options, choose the database creation method, standard create. You set all the configuration options. You would have the option to choose between security, backup, maintenance, and everything. And yeah, so Amazon Aurora with MySQL compatibility, Aurora with PostgreSQL compatibility. Edition type. This is Amazon Aurora. If I'll go click on MySQL, it's MySQL community. I'll click on MariaDB. This is the see Oracle. You got these are the options available. Microsoft SQL Server also. You got see all these additions. Okay. So for Aurora, when you click, so like in standard edition, enterprise edition, you have for Oracle. Like for SQL Server, you have different type of editions. In Oracle also, you have local file system, you have automatic storage management, and lot of file systems. So similar way, when you click on Amazon Aurora, so what is the main reason behind Amazon Aurora? When you migrate your Oracle database from your own premises to Amazon Aurora, then you don't have to, pay your on-premises cost. You don't have to pay the license fee back to Oracle because your database is now migrated to Aurora. So what it says, if you're migrating a PostgreSQL database or MySQL, then you can use Amazon Aurora with MySQL compatibility. So you can consider this as a kind of addition. So use this addition if you're migrating a database between Friday to Saturday. Sorry, was I was a little out of sight. So what I was trying to say, Amazon Aurora with MySQL compatibility. So basically, when you're migrating your MySQL workload from your on-premises, you usually use to this edition. If you're planning to migrate your Oracle databases or your PostgreSQL databases, then suddenly you can use this second edition option. But having said that, in that case you basically try to get rid of Oracle and your on premises, and then your database is going to run in Amazon Aurora on AWS RDS. But yeah, if you are choosing Oracle, then definitely you would have your other options. So likewise in Oracle you have got 4 different editions. In Amazon Aurora also you got 2 different editions. One is a MySQL compatibility edition, another one is a PostgreSQL compatibility edition. So let me go ahead and click on MySQL. Let me choose the latest available MySQL. 57.22 is also fine. Okay. So every databases they usually come, with their own bug fixes, come with their own issues. So whatever the databases you choose, you would always get this warning message saying known issues and limitations. So before you just go ahead and blindly use anything, it is recommended that you should always know what are the issues and limitations. Okay, these are the couple of things that we are going to provide for creating a MySQL databases. So create a database, MySQL, then we go to MySQL community, choose the version. Now here we go ahead and click on the template. Then dev test. This instance is intended for development use outside of production. Okay. Use RDS free tier to develop new applications, tests, and do everything. So certainly you can understand we are doing it for educational purpose. So let us use the free RDS instance. Okay, so usually your the machines or the instance class that would be used would be different when you change between your templates. So can create a template also that won't charge us more than $10. But yeah, we would do that after making our hands a little dirty onto this. Okay, DB instance identifier. Type a name for your DB instance. Okay, so this is the DB instance. This is not the name of your database. This is the instance name. This is the computer name where your database would be pre-installed. So you would give it, some RDS genuine name. like RDS 001, RDS INST 01. Okay, so master username, auto-generate password. You can give some password as well. Okay, so double quote at the rate is not allowed. At least 8 printable ASCII characters. Okay, DB instance size. Okay, now you can, since we have used the free tier, so we don't have a memory occupies class or standard class. We have bustable classes including T classes. So this is a part of 1 GB only. So remaining all are blocked. So let us go for a free tier. It is fine. I'm using general purpose SSD and we have provisional purpose provisional purpose provisioned IO. Sorry. So if you remember yesterday we have seen, right, the EBS volume types. We had about 4 to 5 types of volumes. 2 is based on the SSD and 2 is based on the SDT. In fact, Dasan had a question like for databases, well, what we would use for operating systems, which EBS we would use. So here itself is telling you either you use this of this two. You don't go and host a database and anything anywhere else. Okay, so let it be general purpose SSD. Let it be 20 gigs of thing. Storage scaling, enable storage scaling. Would you like to enable auto scaling? So when your database reaches to 20 gigs, its space would start, automatically scaling up. It will start getting increased. So I can use enable storage auto scaling, provided I have been taking backups to the same storage and a lot of other things. So it's up to you, enable or not. Availability and durability. So multi is a deployment. So recommended for production users. Create a standby and different availability zone to provide data redundancy, eliminate IO fusion, minimize the latency spikes during the system backups. Okay. Now default VPC, we can create our own VPC or we can choose to use the default VPC. Database authentication, password based authentication. Okay, now this additional configuration, if you see here it is asking your DB name. So this is going to be the database name of your MySQL. Okay, RDS INST 01 would be considered as a whole instance name. Let me put some database name here. Let me say MySQL DB1. Default parameter group and options group we are yet to see. Enable automatic backups, we would do that, but let me make it 0 for now, so that indicates we're disabling the backups. Okay, come down. Few more things if you want to export the logs. Okay, here it is enable auto minor version upgrade. So you can select a maintenance window that I was talking about. You can say select duration. Let me put it 1 hour. Okay, so maintenance window is done. So Monday 12 to I can say 12:30, I believe. Okay, so here is the monthly cost. Since we have come across for a free tier is available for us 12 months. Each calendar month, the free tier will be provided you to use the RDS resources listed below for free. Okay, So now we can go ahead and click on create database. Okay, so it's creating the database. It's gonna take about 5 to 10 minutes of time until it gets prepared. So here you can see dbt2 micro size. It's creating the instance VPC. Okay, so we would keep the session for up to that much today, and let it get created. Let me just pause it for a second.